If you're over 60 and eating eggs every morning thinking you're protecting your muscles, what if I told you that what you pair them with could quietly be doing the opposite? Eggs are one of the most powerful muscle-preserving foods we have. They're rich in leucine, choline, fat-soluble vitamins, and highly bioavailable protein. For seniors, eggs can be metabolic medicine. But here's the part almost no one talks about. Certain vegetables, especially when eaten together with eggs, can interfere with how your body actually uses that protein. Not because the foods are bad, but because of how aging, digestion, mineral balance, thyroid signaling, and muscle metabolism change after 60. And this matters a lot. After age 60, muscle loss accelerates rapidly. We call this sarcopenia. And it's not just about strength or appearance. Muscle is your largest blood sugar regulator, your metabolic engine, and one of your strongest predictors of longevity. Lose muscle and insulin resistance rises, inflammation rises, fall risk rises, and independence declines. Here's what's really going on inside your body. As we age, stomach acid drops, digestive enzymes decline, and protein signaling becomes weaker, a process called anabolic resistance. That means even if you're eating enough protein, your muscles may not be getting the message. Now add certain vegetables that bind minerals, interfere with amino acid signaling, or blunt thyroid and insulin pathways, and suddenly that perfect-looking breakfast becomes metabolically inefficient. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of eggs as a high-quality construction crew delivering bricks to rebuild muscle. But if the roads are blocked, the bricks never reach the job site. Some food combinations create those roadblocks, especially in older adults with sensitive digestion and slower metabolic signaling. This doesn't mean you should fear vegetables, and it definitely doesn't mean eggs are the problem. It means timing, pairing, and preparation matter more than most people realize, especially after 60. In this video, I'm going to show you why eggs are critical for aging muscles when eaten correctly. The 3 vegetable pairings that can weaken muscle signaling in seniors. The physiology behind protein absorption, insulin, and thyroid function. How to restructure your meals to amplify muscle-building signals. Simple swaps that protect strength, energy, and longevity. And importantly, this is not about restriction, it's about precision. Small changes in food combinations can dramatically change how your body responds, especially as you age. Before we talk about vegetables, we need to understand the real problem seniors face. Because it's not that you're not eating enough protein, it's that your muscles are no longer hearing the signal. Here's what's really going on inside your body. After age 60, the body develops something called anabolic resistance. This means muscle cells become less responsive to amino acids, especially leucine, the key trigger that tells muscle to repair and grow. Research shows that elderly individuals need approximately 40% more leucine than younger adults to achieve the same muscle protein synthesis response. Eggs are one of the richest natural sources of leucine, which is why they're often recommended for seniors. But leucine doesn't work in isolation. For muscle protein synthesis to occur, you need adequate stomach acid to break protein down, minerals like zinc and magnesium to activate enzymes, insulin signaling to shuttle amino acids into muscle, thyroid signaling to maintain metabolic rate. When any one of those is disrupted, protein becomes far less effective, even if the food itself is perfect. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of eggs as a master key. In younger adults, that key opens the muscle door easily, but in older adults, the lock has rust. You now need more precision, the right environment for the key to work. This is where food combinations become critical. Certain vegetables contain compounds that are completely harmless, even beneficial in younger, metabolically flexible bodies. But in seniors, especially those with lower stomach acid, slower digestion, or borderline thyroid function, those same compounds can interfere with mineral absorption and protein signaling. And when that happens, eggs don't deliver their full muscle protective benefit. One major factor is mineral binding. Muscle building enzymes require minerals like zinc, iron, and magnesium. Some vegetables contain compounds that bind these minerals in the gut, making them unavailable. If those minerals aren't absorbed, the protein signal weakens, not because eggs are ineffective, but because the metabolic machinery is missing parts. Another overlooked factor is digestive load. Eggs digest quickly and efficiently, but when they're combined with large volumes of certain fibrous or anti-nutrient-rich vegetables, digestion slows, stomach acid becomes diluted, and protein breakdown becomes incomplete. In seniors, incomplete digestion means incomplete signaling. Studies tracking muscle protein synthesis have found that whole eggs stimulate muscle building 40% more effectively than egg whites alone, despite identical protein content. This is because the egg yolk contains not just protein, but also minerals, vitamins, and fat-soluble compounds that work synergistically with the amino acids. But that synergy can be disrupted by what you eat alongside those eggs. Now, let's talk about the specific vegetable pairings that can undermine this process. The first category is high-oxalate vegetables. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens, and rhubarb. These compounds bind tightly to calcium, iron, and magnesium, forming insoluble crystals that your body cannot absorb. When you eat a spinach omelette or scrambled eggs with sautéed chard, the oxalates from those greens bind to the minerals in your eggs. And without those minerals, the enzymatic cascade that turns dietary protein into muscle protein cannot proceed efficiently. In younger individuals with robust stomach acid and efficient mineral absorption, this binding effect is minimal. The body compensates. But after 60, when stomach acid production has already declined and mineral absorption is less efficient, adding high oxalate vegetables to protein meals creates a double challenge. You're not only getting less mineral absorption from the eggs, but you're also reducing the bioavailability of the amino acids that depend on those minerals for muscle signaling. Research on calcium oxalate demonstrates that boiling these vegetables can reduce oxalate content by up to 87%. But when eaten raw or lightly cooked alongside protein, the binding effect remains significant. This is not about demonizing spinach. Spinach is nutrient-dense and valuable. But eating it at the same time as your primary protein source, especially if that's your only protein meal before noon, creates metabolic interference that matters more at 60 than it did at 30. The second category is cruciferous vegetables eaten raw or in large quantities. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and kale contain compounds called goitrogens. Goitrogens interfere with thyroid hormone production by blocking iodine uptake. Your thyroid regulates your metabolic rate, and metabolic rate directly influences how efficiently your muscles use protein. When thyroid function is even slightly suppressed, muscle protein synthesis slows. For seniors who may already have borderline thyroid function or who are taking thyroid medication, Adding large amounts of raw cruciferous vegetables to an egg breakfast can blunt the very metabolic signals needed to convert that protein into muscle tissue. Cooking significantly reduces goitrogen activity, but many people eat raw kale salads or add raw broccoli to their morning smoothies with eggs. That combination, over time, may contribute to metabolic sluggishness that makes muscle preservation harder. Again, this is not about avoiding these vegetables. It's about understanding timing and preparation. Steaming or sautéing cruciferous vegetables neutralizes most goitrogens, and eating them separately from your primary protein meal avoids the interference altogether. The third category involves high-fiber vegetables consumed in excessive volume. Fiber is essential for gut health, but too much fiber at once, especially when eaten with protein, can slow gastric emptying and dilute stomach acid. Vegetables like artichokes, okra, and certain squashes, when eaten in large portions alongside eggs, create a thick, fibrous mass in the stomach that extends digestion time. In younger adults, this might simply mean feeling full longer. But in seniors with already reduced digestive enzyme production, it means protein breaks down incompletely. Incomplete protein breakdown means fewer amino acids reach the bloodstream. Fewer amino acids in the bloodstream means weaker muscle protein synthesis signals. There's also the issue of phytates, compounds found in certain vegetables, grains, and legumes that bind zinc, iron, and magnesium. When you pair eggs with foods high in phytates, such as whole grain toast or beans, the mineral binding effect compounds. Zinc is critical for protein metabolism and immune function. Iron supports oxygen delivery to muscle tissue. Magnesium activates over 300 enzymatic reactions, many of which are involved in muscle contraction and protein synthesis. Blocking absorption of these minerals, even modestly, creates a cascade of metabolic inefficiencies that accumulate over time. Now, I want to be very clear about something. None of these vegetables are toxic. None of them will cause immediate harm. The human body is resilient and adaptive. But when you're over 60 and dealing with anabolic resistance, when your muscles already need stronger signals to maintain mass, when your digestive system is already less efficient, these small interferences add up. The goal is not to eat less. The goal is to eat smarter. To structure your meals in a way that maximizes the muscle building potential of every bite. So how do you do that? How do you keep eating vegetables while optimizing protein absorption and muscle signaling? First, separate your protein and high-oxalate vegetables by timing. Eat your eggs for breakfast. Rich, whole eggs with the yolk intact. Pair them with lower oxalate vegetables like zucchini, bell peppers, mushrooms, or tomatoes. These vegetables provide fiber, vitamins, and phytonutrients without the mineral binding interference. Save your spinach, chard, and beet greens for lunch or dinner, hours away from your primary protein meal. Second, always cook cruciferous vegetables before eating them with protein, or better yet, eat them at a separate meal. Steaming, roasting, or sautéing broccoli, kale, and Brussels sprouts reduces goitrogen content by up to 90%. If you love a morning smoothie with greens, use romaine, cucumber, or celery instead of raw kale. These provide hydration and nutrients without thyroid interference. Or drink your green smoothie mid-morning, 2 hours after your egg breakfast, when the initial protein digestion wave has already occurred. Third, control portion sizes of high-fiber vegetables when eating them with eggs. A small side of sautéed vegetables is beneficial. A massive plate of fibrous vegetables can overwhelm your digestive capacity. Think of your stomach as a chemical reactor. It needs the right proportions of acid, enzymes, and food to function optimally. Overloading it with fiber dilutes the acid and slows the reaction. Fourth, consider food preparation methods that reduce anti-nutrients. Soaking vegetables before cooking can reduce oxalate content. Boiling high-oxalate greens in water and discarding the water removes up to 87% of oxalates. Fermenting vegetables reduces phytates and enhances mineral bioavailability. These traditional preparation methods, used for centuries, weren't accidents. They were developed because people noticed that certain cooking methods made food more digestible and nourishing. Fifth, ensure adequate mineral intake through supplementation if needed. If you're eating high oxalate or high phytate foods regularly, consider supplementing with magnesium, zinc, and a quality multivitamin to prevent deficiencies. But supplementation is a backup, not a replacement for smart food combining. The minerals in food, especially in eggs, are more bioavailable and better absorbed than most supplements. Protecting that absorption through proper meal structure is always the better strategy. Sixth, prioritize protein timing and distribution. Research shows that seniors need approximately 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal to overcome anabolic resistance and stimulate muscle protein synthesis effectively. That's about 4 to 5 whole eggs. Eating this amount at breakfast, when cortisol and growth hormone levels are naturally higher, creates an optimal anabolic window. But if you dilute that signal by combining it with foods that interfere with digestion and mineral absorption, you're undermining the very process you're trying to support. Finally, pay attention to your body's signals. Do you feel bloated after eating eggs with certain vegetables? Does your energy drop instead of rise? These are signs that your digestion is struggling. Experiment with different combinations and notice what makes you feel strong, clear, and energized versus heavy and sluggish. Your body has wisdom. Listen to it. The bigger picture here is that muscle loss after 60 is not inevitable. Sarcopenia affects between 5% and 50% of older adults, depending on age, but it's largely preventable and even reversible with the right nutritional and exercise strategies. Resistance training is critical. It's the single most effective intervention for maintaining muscle mass. But resistance training without adequate protein and without protein that's properly absorbed and utilized won't deliver full results. You need both. You need the stimulus from exercise and the building blocks from nutrition. And you need those building blocks to reach your muscles without interference. Think of it this way. If you're doing resistance training twice a week, but your breakfast every day is sabotaging protein absorption, you're working against yourself 6 days out of 7. Small changes in meal structure, in what you pair with your eggs, in how you prepare your vegetables, can amplify your results dramatically. This is precision nutrition, not restriction, not deprivation, precision. One more thing I want to address. Some of you might be thinking, but I've been eating spinach with my eggs for years and I'm fine. And you might be. If you're younger, if your digestion is strong, if you're not experiencing muscle loss, then your body is compensating effectively. But for many seniors, especially those noticing weakness, fatigue, or gradual muscle decline, these small interferences matter. The research on anabolic resistance is clear. Older muscle requires stronger, clearer signals. Anything that weakens or confuses those signals makes muscle preservation harder. And here's the encouraging part. When you remove the interference, when you structure your meals to support muscle signaling instead of blocking it, the results can be remarkable. Studies show that with proper protein intake, strategic meal timing, and resistance training, seniors can build muscle just as effectively as younger adults. The capacity is still there. The machinery still works. It just needs the right fuel, delivered the right way, without obstacles in the path. So to summarize, eggs are one of the best muscle-preserving foods for seniors, rich in leucine and highly bioavailable protein. But eggs work best when paired correctly. Avoid high-oxalate vegetables like spinach and chard at the same meal. Cook cruciferous vegetables to reduce goitrogens or eat them separately. Control fiber portions to avoid overwhelming digestion. Use preparation methods like boiling and soaking to reduce anti-nutrients. Time your protein to maximize anabolic signaling. And always prioritize whole eggs over egg whites. The yolk contains minerals, vitamins, and fat-soluble compounds that enhance muscle protein synthesis significantly. This is not about perfection. This is about awareness, about making informed choices that support your strength and independence as you age. Muscle is life. It regulates blood sugar, supports metabolism, protects against falls, and predicts how long and how well you'll live. Protecting it is one of the most important things you can do after 60. And protecting it starts with what's on your plate, how you combine it, and when you eat it. If this information has been helpful, if it's given you a new perspective on how to structure your meals for muscle health, consider subscribing. I share science-based, practical guidance like this regularly to help you protect your metabolism, strength, and longevity naturally. The goal is always to empower you with knowledge so you can make decisions that serve your health without fear, without confusion, and without unnecessary restriction. You deserve to feel strong, capable, and in control of your aging process. And with the right information, you absolutely can.